Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Be a Boss Coaching Podcast. My name is Beatriz, and I'm an entrepreneur and business coach, founder of Be a Boss Coaching, and podcast host of the Be a Boss Coaching Podcast. In this episode, I will go over a virtual networking strategy. And this strategy is designed to help you create potential new leads for your business, meet new collaborators, and even do market research. If you're interested in learning more about the communities that I'm a part of, come on over to the show notes where I will share links to free communities that you can join, as well as paid communities that I am a part of. One of them, and shout out to Kita Zuleta, who is the founder of Cafecita con Jefas, is a paid community where you can come, network, be in community with other jefas, and gain access to other support resources programs. I also mentioned my amazing web designer and developer, Joe of the Creative Inca. If you're interested in checking her out and her services, come on over to the show notes. She is at thecreativeinca.com. All right. Hi, everybody. This podcast episode will be on a virtual networking strategy. And I want to go over this strategy because there is so much value and so much richness when you go to a virtual meetup, especially if you're someone that prefers to stay behind the computer and network in that way. If you're an introvert like myself, you probably enjoy some alone me time and some probably working on your business operations and being probably behind the scenes or taking some time to recharge if you've been social. And I wanted to go over a particular strategy that you can employ to, number one, make personal connections, number two, meet potential collaborators, and number three, do some market research. A lot of people I don't think realize that networking, while it is at face value to meet potential clients, perhaps potential business partners or potential collaborators, it's also to do market research. And as an introvert, as someone who is more comfortable in absorbing, taking a step back, listening, that has really helped me in virtual spaces where people come in, they tell us what their business is, what their website is, where you can find them, and what they help people with. But what we don't realize is that that is valuable information. If you are there to network, I think we get lost in the idea that we want to let many people know who we are and what our business does, right? We're eager to do that. But if you take a step back and just absorb and take in information, ask or figure out what are the questions that people have, like listening to the questions that people have at, for example, if you're at a webinar and the moderator asked questions about the topic, that is valuable market research. These are business owners who are solopreneurs or business who are entrepreneurs who are telling you directly in the chat, or maybe they're unmuting themselves asking questions, and that is very valuable information. So while we may be eager to talk about who we are and what we do and all of that amazing, great stuff, we may want to step back and listen to the challenges that people have, even the wins, right? Like what are the wins that people are having so that we can learn from that and figure out how we can implement that information into the types of services or products that we have as a business owner. So, virtual networking, and I'm going to focus on virtual networking because I just want to hone in on that particular aspect of networking because there's a lot of strategy that you can put into this format. So I'm going to get into it. Just really quick, you probably, if you're watching the YouTube version of this, you're probably like, what is on her head? And quick story time. I have had I don't even know what to call it, to be quite honest with you. I just call it a cyst that I've lived with my entire life. And at some point, I thought that it was just there, that it was something that wouldn't come off. Like it just I had to live with my entire life until I went to the dermatologist while I was in New York, and I was going for just the rest of my face, and the dermatologist took a look at it and was like, "Oh, you have," I don't know what he called it. I don't think it's a cyst, but I don't know what he called it. "You have whatever." And he popped it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't know that I could do that." And ever since then, I mean, I was elated because I was like, "Finally, there's this thing that I've lived with forever gone." And, he did say that it was possible that it would come back. I moved to LA. I moved back to LA, and it did come back. So that was maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago probably, and it did come back. And I really didn't wanna deal with it anymore. I was looking at it through a bunch of pictures, and was I made a decision to go talk to my new dermatologist about it, and he said, "Yeah, we can take it out. It is possible it might come back, but chances are low." So I did the procedure, took it out, and now it's healing. So if you have any questions about what is on our head, that is a quick story about it. And and so it's healing, and it's in its healing era, like me. All right. So again, I want to talk to you about virtual networking strategies. So let's get into it. Let's go. So I want to tell you first different forums where you can go and virtual network. All right. So there's virtual meetups. There are online webinars. A lot of people these days create their own online webinars. I am one of them. I know other people, other business owners who create their own online webinars, and they facilitate and create experiences and spaces, right, where you can come in. Or you can also go into communities and groups, online communities, online groups. And one of the ways that I'll give you an example for community groups, right? I'm part of We All Grow. If you're hearing this, if you're Latina, you probably have heard of We All Grow. There was an Amigas in Business live event that happened last week, actually, a week ago, exactly a week ago today. I'm recording this on Wednesday, October 16th. It's been, if you're listening, it's been over a week now. But that community was an online community. A lot of business owners, a lot of Latinas, a lot of not just Latinas, but other women of color that come in to support one another, to network together, to collaborate together, to buy from each other. But the online community space is very accessible. There's a lot of free events, free workshops. Of course, they have their tier event. So that is a group, it's a community where people gather. And I enjoy that group. There's a lot of events that you can find on there, a lot of different people posting about their own events, their own products, their own services. There's a directory that you can go into. So there's a lot of information. People are putting their information into these communities, right? And so that is a space where you can go in and begin to virtually meet people. You're not meeting people in real life, right? But we're virtually meeting people. I have had success in reaching out to people on there and just pitching to them and saying, "My name is Beatriz. I'm an entrepreneur coach. Here's my website. I see that you have a business doing X, Y, and Z. If you're interested, I would love for you to join my email list. Here's my link to join. And I have a webinar coming up this date. If you're interested in this topic, come on by. It's free." And so a lot of these groups have ways that we can communicate with people, tell people who we are, right? And that way we can see all of the different potential people that we can collaborate with or partner with that could help us in our business. So those are community groups, online webinars, right? They post online webinars on there all the time. But if you go to websites like Eventbrite, there's virtual online webinars there all the time as well. There's free ones, there's paid ones, and then there's other groups like I'm in this group called the Verizon Small Business Technology Group, I think it's called. It's free and they have virtual workshops all the time and they have free courses as well. And they even have a Slack community. So if you join, you can join their Slack community. It's free. And there's a bunch of people that are new that are coming on there all the time. And these are all people who are literally saying, "I am a business owner. This is what I do. Please reach out to me if you need any help in X, Y, and Z. But that is also those, if you are a B2B business, I am a B2B business model, right? I'm a business entrepreneur coach. I like to coach entrepreneurs. So, I go in there to see who's in the business world and to look for my ideal potential client. I know my ideal potential client, right? I work with women of color, I work with Latinas, I work with Black women, queer women. That is my target audience. And it's usually new entrepreneurs on the newer side who are in the stage of business where they're learning and where they're learning basics and fundamentals. And that's why I teach on the fundamentals of strategy. And that's what I go and look for, right? So there's so many different groups, communities, spaces that you can join that can give you access to people, their businesses, their information, what they do, what kind of challenges they have. So, first is really finding the spaces that fit your target audience, that fit your ideal client customer, and being active in those spaces, right? Is what I would say. Okay. So let's go into, now that you've found the spaces, you realize you've found places where your ideal clients, customers like to go to or where they gather. Now you want to use your introvert skills. If you're an introvert, you may not be an introvert, but even if you're not an introvert, this is still really helpful. Is now you want to step back. Like I said in the beginning of this video, when we go to networking events, the mindset around that is that we're there to tell people who we are, right? Like that is a very extrovert type of mindset. Like, I'm going to go there. This is what I do. This is how I can help you. And you go and talk to people, right? But in virtual networking, you can go to a online webinar, and you know that time where people are saying, drop your name in the chat, tell us where you're calling in from or where you are at, where are you located, give us what you do, what your business does. That is the meat of all of this. That is the information that you want to get, right? You're there, yes, to meet other people, to network across other businesses, but taking the time to literally write down who came to this workshop, why they came to this workshop, what their business is, can give you an idea of potential clients you could potentially reach out to, right? Like, what are their current challenges in their business and in their industry? So, that is where I would honestly, yes, of course, put in your own information if you'd like, right? Definitely. I think the value and the real strategy is where you take in people's information, right? People drop their IG handles on the chat all the time, or their LinkedIn profiles, any sort of social media, their websites, right? Their contact information, their emails. So get that information, research that person, research their business, research how long they've been in business, and look at their social media and figure out what kind of business they have started, but also remember the topic of the webinar. Why were they there? Did they ask any questions? And so this is the time where that superpower of an introvert, where you observe, where you take in, you step back and you listen. And you simply are there to listen to other people's questions and concerns or their challenges or problems. That is the time to really gather that information. If people are putting in their information in the chat, right? Where their social medias, their websites, their contact information, get that information, get their names, right? Get their names, get their contact information. What I like to do is, if they're dropping website or links or whatever, I open that. And as the meeting is going, I open up different tabs for all the different people. And I'm also taking notes what their names are, because sometimes I've come across websites and social medias where there's nowhere in the entire universe of the internet do they have their name for some reason. They don't have They have their website, they have the social media, but they don't have their names on there. But their name will be in the chat, right? That's whatever name they put in the chat. So write out their names, their website, kind of business they do, and that's when you're taking that information. And then, depending on the topic of the webinar, let's say the webinar was on social media strategies. I don't know. I'm just making up a topic. Um, Follow up. If you were able to find them, if they gave you their contact information, great. You don't really need to do that much digging unless you want to continue researching more about them, who they are, do they fit the profile of your ideal client customer, right? Do that research. But follow up, create a message that links back to the event where you met. And maybe there's something that happened during the event that they would remember as well. Put that in your email so that they know that you're not some weird rando bot, you're a real person. And the information that you gathered through your research, implement that. Let them know that you took the time to figure out who they are and then follow up. My name is Beatriz. I'm an entrepreneur coach. I see that you're a business that designs websites, and I met you at this virtual event where it started 10 minutes late because the there was technical difficulties, but I'm glad that we still were able to connect. If you're interested in connecting or if there's any way that I can support you in your business journey, this is how I help. Please visit my website. And if you'd rather connect on social media, this is my social media handle. I hope to hear from you soon. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bia. I literally just give you a template of what you could potentially say on your email cold message to potential clients, collaborators. Decide what you want to do with that potential client or potential collaborator, right? Give them a call to action in your email. So follow up with the people that were in that event, in that webinar or that virtual meetup. Follow up with them and don't give up because it is scary, right? To be writing messages, cold messaging people, and seeing if they even consider you or even click on your website or even connect with you online or on social media. But don't give up. It is scary. But this is the virtual strategy for prospecting, right? If you think about old school like salespeople and their strategies for business, and when they would go be salespeople for different products, they'd go and meet people in real life or at a networking event or maybe even door knocking, right? A lot of real estate businesses and real estate business people actually still do that. They go and door knock for potential clients. You never know who might be thinking about selling their home. And as a real estate person or real estate business person, that's how you get business, right? You get someone's trust, and if they trust you to sell their home, then they call you up, right? And so this is sort of that, but for the virtual aspect of it all. And you let them know I met you at this event. And I think connecting to somebody through a shared experience is much more powerful than simply just messaging random people, right? I've tried that. Let me be completely transparent and honest with you. I've tried that before, and it has worked. Not to the degree I would have liked it to work, but I think when you share an experience together, at least, maybe you went to the same event or you've been in the same virtual groups, that helps, right? Because they know you are a person. Okay, so now I gave you the how to find the spaces, what to do when you get into the space, right? Like once you're in the webinar, taking the information in down and doing your research, following up with them. Now, let's get into the nitty gritty of the email. So I gave you an email template, right? Sort of kind of came up with that on the fly a little bit, but that's because I've kind of done it already, to be honest with you. And in the email, you want to have a call to action or in your message, whether you're sending a message through their social media, maybe you can't find their email anywhere, or you're sending them a message virtually through a social media platform. Make sure that you have a call to action, right? Do you want them to visit your website? I would I now that I've invested in optimizing my website, like that's where I mostly send all my peoples to. Shout out to Joe from the Creative Inca who did my website. So if you're looking for a website person, go to Joe. She is incredible. But anyway, do you want them to visit your website? Do you want them to book a call with you? Maybe you're a service provider and you do consultations. Maybe you want them to book a call. Make sure you give them a link to book your call. Maybe you want to connect on socials. Maybe you feel like they would start trusting you better if you simply connect on socials first. So you give them your social media handles. Maybe you have a freebie, a free resource that you can give them. Like, hey, I see that you came to this webinar for X, Y, and Z, and I have a free resource that could potentially further help your situation. Or invite them to your own webinar. Maybe you have your own webinars and you have a calendar of events, or you have a community you want them to join, or you have weekly sessions of networking. Maybe you're like, hey, you came to this networking event. I have my own networking events. Please come on by. They're free or donation, whatever they are, right? Give them a resource that you know would help their journey, their entrepreneurship journey. Okay, so make sure you have a call to action. And I would now ask yourself, you've done this, maybe you've like followed up with a few people that you met a few virtually online. I would challenge you to try this at least once a week just to get you practicing with this strategy, because it is very difficult to constantly be networking and going to webinars and being social in that way. Even if it is virtual, it does take up a lot of energy, at least for me it does. And do it once a week and do it for at least 2 to 3 months so that you can see throughout that timeline how this worked for you, how it felt for you energetically wise, but what are the results that came from that, right? How much did you grow? So I would have questions around growth. What kind of growth did you see in your social media or your website visits, or even new leads that you generated? What are the goals that you want to measure? And also reflecting on how it felt for you. Like, how did this entire process land with you? Do you feel like this is something that was a strategy that helped you connect with people personally, or did it just drain you and not you probably fell off of it, right? Give yourself um time to really assess how this strategy worked for you, because again, I'm an introvert, so it can be very tiring to be constantly doing this all the time. So maybe if once a week is too much, do it once every 2 weeks, right? Adjust your frequency to what works for you and then execute that over the next 2 to 3 months. Okay. So make sure that you set up the systems for this strategy to work, right? The biggest system that you will need is a CRM system. CRM stands for Client Relationship Management System. You probably have heard of Salesforce and other systems that provide that service. Honestly, you can create your own CRM system with an Excel sheet or Google Excel or Google Doc. I have found that in the times that I've tried to keep track of people that I've met and where I've met them, the more information I try to pack into it, the less I want to go and update that or go and look at that system. And so now I just have as minimal information as possible, but that at least helps me remember something about the person that I met. So usually I just have their name and where I met them and their contact information. And something that I'm trying right now is inputting where they're from. Because if you're doing this virtually, you most likely will not get local people. You'll have people that are from other states. And so you want to keep track of where they're from, I would say, especially if it's a virtual. because this is a virtual networking strategy, like I said, this will most likely be where you connect with other entrepreneurs that are not local to where you are, but across, like, nationally. So that's something that I've noticed in this whole strategy, is that remembering where they're located usually helps. It's like the thing that helps to establish trust when you're speaking with them or following up with them if they do get on a call with you, right? This is just basic information. You don't need to know their entire life story and all of that, but just, hey, so you're from Virginia. That's great. Maybe you've been to Virginia and you have a little story about visiting Virginia that can help build that trust. So set up a system where you keep track of who you met, where you met them, what their business is. Try to have at least minimal information so that it doesn't overwhelm you. And then you can come back to this and you can input the outcome of that follow up. Maybe they actually did reach out to you, or maybe they said, maybe they got on a call with you and you pitched your business and your service, and they said, I cannot invest in this right now, maybe in 3 months. You put that information in there because you want to make sure that you come back in 3 months, right? So have the information that you want to have, but have as little information as you can. That's what I've learned. It's just, I don't, if I had try to have all this information in there, it just overwhelms me and I don't come back to it. And then just put it in your calendar. Again, we talked about how many times you want to do this. Do you want to start with once a week, once every 2 weeks? Maybe you do it twice a week. Maybe it's really important for you to meet new potential clients or new collaborators, or do market research, right? To listen to people's questions. So put it on your calendar. Any events that you find, put it on your calendar with the links so that you don't forget to go to these events. And use those events as a way for you to learn more about your target audience and find people that would fit your customer profile. All right. That is all for me, y'all. That is my virtual networking strategy. It is very simple. I, as you may know, love talking about strategy, the fundamentals of strategy. And the reason why I love talking about fundamentals is that once you know fundamentals of strategy, you know how to create a strategy around other areas of your business. You can create a marketing strategy, a networking strategy, a go to market strategy, a social media strategy. Like, once you know those fundamentals, you can create strategies for different areas of your business, and it just makes things so much better. You can test, you can see what works. But again, in all of this, and what I love to remind people of is that it's not just strategy, it's also checking in with yourself and checking in whether a particular strategy felt good to you or it didn't, and checking that gut, checking your intuition. Because if it didn't feel good to you, you can scratch that, and or you can modify the strategy and do something different and see what works, right? It's a matter of assessing, coming back to that reflection piece, and really trying to understand what didn't feel good about this, what did feel good about it. And that way you understand yourself much better in terms of how you operate in your business, how you make decisions, and what your values are. All right. I hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions about virtual networking strategy, I hope you send me a DM on Instagram. I'm trying to be a lot more active on LinkedIn. So come on over to LinkedIn. Let's connect on there. And come on over to beabosscoaching.com. Send me a form with a question that you might have. And remember to sign up to my email list. My email list actually gets exclusive content. I send them additional YouTube videos, additional content, additional blogs that I don't normally put on anywhere else but my email list. Blogs I only put out once a month, but for my email list, I put it out every week, and YouTube videos as well. All right. If you like more content like this was helpful, or you try it out and it worked, maybe you got a new client or a new collaborator, or you found out something new about your target audience, let me know. Send me a DM or at come on over to beabosscoaching.com. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you all soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Be a Boss Coaching Podcast. To connect with me and the other featured guests of this podcast, remember to come over to the show notes and visit us at beabosscoaching.com. Remember that you don't have to do this alone. If you have any self-doubt or uncertainties, there's so many places and communities and resources out there for you to tap into. You just need to take action. I can't wait to meet you, and I'll see you in the next episode.